Hello, everyone. I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net. And over here is my buddy Chris, all the way in Australia. You're in Australia right now, right? This is the Australia resident. Yeah, all the way in Australia. Home of Vegemite, kangaroos, and all kinds of stuff. That's about all I know about it.
Spiders, snakes, all
Spiders, snakes, yeah. Walkabouts. Did you ever have to do your walkabout? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But in this show that we're going to talk about, that might be a thing. I mean, realistically, today there was an article that hit up from Discussing Film that I covered on the old MakingStarWars.net. And let's read my probably typo-ridden version. I'll fix it later, I think. Spider-Man No Way Home director to direct Star Wars for Disney+. So, Discussing Film has an exclusive story that Jon Watts, director of Spider-Man No Way Home, is in talks to direct a Star Wars show for Disney+. The show in question is coded Grammar Rodeo and is rumored to have Yoda in it and be set during the High Republic. The casting call for the show revealed this last week. It was revealed this last week and features a cast of 12-year-olds as the leads. The current assumption is this is Tales of the Jedi, which is an unannounced series that had its logo featured on the Lucasfilm Holiday Gift for 2021. You remember that, right, Chris? When that box went out and it has like Indiana Jones 5 and all the Book of Boba Fett, all the shows, and then it has this logo, Tales of the Jedi, and
we thought it was an animated show for a while.
Yeah, it still might be. This might not be Tales of the Jedi. But I am just I'm gonna Occam's razor this bitch and go with the fact that if there's a show coming out called Tales of the Jedi and there's a show starting to film this summer down in Manhattan Beach and it's unannounced, that was unannounced, I'm just gonna kind of do the math there and make an assumption.
Yeah.
So, discussing film rights, we have learned that Jon Watts is in talks to direct at least one episode of an upcoming mysteriously unannounced Star Wars series for Disney+, with plans to begin filming sooner than you might think. And that part was already kind of out, the last part, but it's coming this summer. They're gonna start filming it this summer. But yeah, so it's not far away. We're not far off from it. And I gotta say, I've been thinking about this show. At first, when I first heard the general gist of what it's rumored to be, I was a little bit like, kid Jedis. I start seeing opportunities to sell lightsabers and Jedi robes to 12-year-olds at Disneyland, and my eyes start to glaze over a little bit, like I don't know. But then the more I think about the potential for the concept, if it's not condescending to children and adults, then it could be really good. I mean, it could be really fun. There's absolutely, I say this with a little bit of caveat, but there's not a lot about Luke Skywalker's story that's necessarily adult. I mean, his story is pretty much that of a child becoming an adult when you get down to it. And by the time he becomes the adult, that's kind of the end, when you really get down to it. And he's, of course, a little bit older, and they played him a little bit immature and stuff. But my point is, those story beats really could have gone on to a 12-year-old if they had wanted to. They could have made Luke 12 originally if they had wanted to. And
sure.
I'm glad they didn't, but they could have. So, all right. Okay, so the other interesting part is Jon Favreau is supposed to be producing it. And I thought that part was kind of interesting, too, because so far, the Favreau work on Star Wars has been interconnected to the elements of things he's working on that he has control over. And so this will be the first time that Favreau, and maybe it's just as an executive producer, maybe it's not really as hands-on as we might think, in the sense that they're filming it where he films his stuff. Like, what if he's an executive producer? When I say a name only, I don't mean a name only. I mean, what if he's one of 5 producers and he's just like, oh yeah, here's how money works on that lot. Here's what it costs. This is how you budget, maybe it's something like that, but let's just push that aside and pretend like he's the executive producer. He's the only one. Let's just pretend like that's the case. And
It'll be interesting to see if he actually is a writer on the show, because that's the big thing for me. If he's a writer for the show, then
Yeah,
that's the big news.
yeah.
Anyone could be a producer, but yeah,
right.
if he's actually writing some episodes, then that makes a big difference.
Yeah, yeah. And so far, you gave me a tweet from the author I want to read. Right, I didn't put it up on screen. I'll pull it up on my phone right now. I believe you sent it to me, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Jacob D. Film on Twitter says, should be noted that the only thing I know for definite are the working title, Watts directing, and Favreau producing. And he said Watts was in talks. And I want to talk about what that means too. All the additional info is me trying to place together other people's reporting. I'm leaning towards High Republic or Luke's Academy series at the moment. So, which honestly, the Luke Academy series would be the way to go. If they want to just have home runs, if they want to actually successfully, like, I almost think that there's this underlying like thing where like we have to challenge ourselves and we have to do things outside the box. Not all the time. Not all the time. When you've done a lot of the same, do that. But when you haven't actually delivered what just people are straight up asking for, like when people ask for a Boba Fett series and then you gave them outside the box Boba Fett, that's not the time to like do that. So I'm hoping in this instance that they're more. I hope if it's High Republic, it is Favreau, because then we're going to bring some of that Favreau aesthetic, that Favreau magic, if you will, to the High Republic era, which I don't think has so far has been very meh to me. I don't think that the books have been poorly written. It's not a slight on the authors, but I don't think they've been intriguing at all. I think they've been very
for sure.
Did you try them at all? Did you try to read those books at all, or is that not your jam?
No, I tried to read a few comics. I think I bought 3 or 4 comics, but it just wasn't for me. But Tales of the Jedi actually makes more sense to be a Luke show if you think about it. I mean, it just, to me, it doesn't really scream High Republic. Yeah. Tales of the Jedi for me is probably leaning towards more of a Luke Academy show or something related to Luke. I think High Republic might be a different name, but for me personally, Tales of the Jedi leans more in that direction towards Luke. But yeah, it all comes. We're getting more and more tidbits that it is a High Republic show. But yeah, I don't know. We don't know. We don't know if it's a cartoon, but we definitely know that something is filming in June. So
yeah. I'm not a huge fan of hiding behind things. I don't like to hide behind things. I like when I'm having a discussion about what I think or what I know. I don't like, but the truth is that I've heard that there's going to be 10 shows between when I heard it a couple of months ago and in the near future, 10 shows done down at Manhattan Beach. And that opens up a huge possibility for there to be a High Republic show and this to be the Luke show, and for wires just to easily get crossed there. It
for sure
could easily happen.
It's
completely on the table, but I don't know, so I'm not trying to pretend that I do. And the other thing is so the example I always use, I was telling this to a friend this week who does scoops about the in talks stuff. I like because like there was a one time when Obi-Wan Kenobi, not when it was a film, and I saw like 25 candidates for people in talks for Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I saw this list and I didn't know what to do. I wasn't exactly inexperienced in scooping, but I also was still a little bit green. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Do I report and I was like, I knew I couldn't report the list. It would out my source at that time. Yeah. And then I also was like, well, who are the likely candidates? But as I started just to do the basic math in my head, I realized, wow, I have about a 1 in 25% chance of getting this right. A 1 in 25, that's not good. That's not good at all. But so I used that list as sort of, and obviously that project didn't move forward. But if it had, and I had heard somebody on that list being, I would know to bump them up, as this seems really likely. And in this
100%,
instance,
100%.
I think that the interesting part about it is that John Watts directed 2 insanely popular Spider-Man films for Disney and Sony. I'm not sure how that works, but let's just say for Disney. And with all of that in mind, it comes with a little bit of clout as being can successfully operate within an established IP and bring it to success. And most people who direct, they either are like, I am the next David Lynch, I would never direct Star Wars, and I don't think there's many of those, or they're like, I got into movies because I saw Star Wars. Of course, I'm going to direct Star Wars. And then what I usually hear is they get scared at one point. The people who are reluctant are like, oh, I don't want to deal with that bullshit. Like remember the Game of Thrones guys? They saw what was happening to Ryan and had $1 bajillion, and they were like, fuck you, Star Wars, I'm out. And I don't blame them one bit. Honestly, that amount of money and not having to deal with the grief, they did the right thing, I think, for their lives.
Oh, no doubt. Don't forget also that Disney must really be high on him, because he's got Fantastic Four coming up, and that's a big Marvel property. That's a big Marvel property. So it's got that in the pipeline. But for me, usually when a trade reports it, like a Deadline or Variety saying they're in talks, I think it's pretty much a done deal. Personally, that's if a big.
But and this, excuse my ignorance here, but is discussing film at the level of Variety, a Deadline? Are they more like in the league of, let's say, and I mean this respectfully, but like Slash Film and that kind of stuff? Because I think that there may be a difference. Like if Peter Scretta, whatever, from Slash Film tells you something, it's probably true, but it's also like the second generation of like film blogs that really got it right. I feel like for the internet, and I'm not sure where they fall.
Yeah,
honestly, I don't know.
They definitely not a clickbait. They're not a clickbait. A site. They post whatever they post, and it's not bullshit. Right. So whatever they post, they're not looking for clicks. That's as far as I know. It's definitely not a
it's not like a grift.
But they're not Variety or anything.
Because like Mike, the way I know things generally work, and in my experience, and what I've heard and what I've experienced is, oftentimes when it's a lesser candidate than somebody like Watts, they will have been up for Star Wars, and they know it's broken down now. The agent really has all of the signs. It's not going to happen. It's going to fall through. So they start to pivot towards, let's capitalize on this. So then what they do is they go and then they start hitting up Variety and the bigger side and say, hey, so-and-so's in talks. And sometimes they'll take the bait, but they usually don't. And then it ends up on a lesser corporate website is what I'll call it, because I really don't think that the trades are usually that much better. They're just in league with the studios. That's the only difference.
100%.
But like I like when Making Star Wars was really on fire, I had agents who were like telling me about people who were up for roles in The Last Jedi and stuff like that who didn't get it. And that's what they were doing, is they were hoping that if the name would get out there and that a bunch of fans would go, so-and-so is so cute, and she would just be the best, and she would make a great, Han Solo's daughter or whatever, Lando's daughter, whatever it was. And then some other studio scoops them up for DC or something. Like that's the game. That's the chess game for agents. Yeah. And it's frowned upon. It's not looked, you're not supposed to do that. Nobody likes it that if they do that. But my point is, John Watts, he's already in that system. He's in the system of those guys of good and superheroes, and he's successful. So I feel like when somebody reports they're in talks, The only thing that's going to stop it is the schedule for Fantastic Four, for instance, if those things don't line up. And I tried to look at the Fantastic Four thing very quickly before the show. All I saw was it's to be announced. I couldn't find
it. Doesn't have a release date. Yeah, it doesn't have a release date.
I couldn't find it, like even like the production film date or anything like that. So
casting hasn't begun. Nothing like that. It's still a few years out.
Okay, so that's probably not in the way. And so the only thing would be is if he doesn't like it, if he thinks the premise is bad, or he doesn't want to like deal with it. And but I have to say, this sounds like it's going to be cool. It sounds like if they're trying to bring the Ghostbusters Afterlife model to a Star Wars show with little Jedi kids, there's a hell of a lot of potential there. Like people say Stranger Things, I say Ghostbusters Afterlife. Reading the cast there, it's almost 1-to-1 of the Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Pretty much,
yeah, kind of archetypes or whatever. So yeah, when I put all of that together, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a hell of a lot of potential there for a Star Wars show. And
100%.
Who's the guy who plays Spider-Man? Is that Tom Holland? Yeah, he's a very youthful actor, but I mean, he just did Uncharted, and I do kind of shy away from the concept of like Tom Holland's like a little baby kid, because he's not really a little kid, you know what I mean?
No, I didn't see Tom Holland in Star Wars, but yeah.
But what you do have is you have the youth of Peter Parker being shown on screen successfully in a way that audiences have bought. They bought into it. And so that quality in a director, it can be kind of hard to find. And there's a lot of people who can't do that, they direct everyone as if they were the same age, and then everyone who falls outside of the periphery of that age just doesn't feel right. Like the kids seem weird or off, or the kids seem like they're maybe a little bit slow because they just don't know what kids are. You know what I mean? Like kids are smart and they're really fast, and they're not like, I don't know what I'm doing. What is a laser sword? That's not how kids are. And and I don't think this guy would do that. So I'm hoping this pans out, because that would be good. But here's my big confession. Yeah.
Go on. What's your big
I haven't seen Spider-Man. I haven't seen the newest one with the pandemic and not taking the kids to the theater, really, for the most part.
You're waiting for it to get
I didn't get to see it. I haven't seen it yet. And then we haven't had like a movie night. The one time we did it, the one time we broke general quarantine during the stuff was for Ghostbusters Afterlife, actually. And that was the one where I was like, my daughter was excited. What's that?
Was it busy in the cinema when you went?
Nope. No, it was the theater by my place. Was pretty rad. They would have I still believe this is mostly a pony show on this, because I believe that the virus is just very dangerous, and if people are in a room together, you're toast probably if they had, you know what I mean? That's what I think. But they would have a cluster of 5 seats that you can get, and then 5 seats open. So it was a very not packed theater with a lot of room, and it was a very large theater too. But this is me trying to justify taking a huge risk that we didn't get sick, so okay. But yeah, I was not happy about it. I was not comfortable with it personally. But anyways, Spider-Man isn't something that we are into enough in my house that we're well, we're gonna do that for Spider-Man. For the Ghostbusters and for Star Wars, it's on. Indiana Jones, it's 100%. On. I mean, but thankfully, by the time Indiana Jones comes out, we're gonna be totally post-pandemic, and that's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
Fingers crossed. But yeah, I was just about to say, for me, the more Star Wars, the better. Give me TV shows, give me movies, give me video games. I'm just gonna take it all in and hope for the best. And if it doesn't pan out, like Bert said, it doesn't pan out, but it gives me something to look forward to. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's the way I see it. So I'm gonna give every show a chance, and always go in positive and hope for the best.
Same. It's like Book of Boba Fett did not meet my requirements for a show I would say I love deeply. I had fun with it. I enjoyed every episode. I think I enjoyed every episode. In retrospect, I enjoy every episode too. But I also think that it was a little bit sloppy, a little bit of a sloppy show. And
100%.
and
Yeah.
but then we got Kenobi coming in just a few weeks, really, when you get down to it. Less than 2 months now, I think, to go. Are we less? What's our date today? We're on the 19th, so we got about 3 months to go. So
three
yeah.
months, yeah.
So it's like, but that's not far. That'll go by in the blink of an eye. You know, it'll be here before we know it. And so as long as they have something always lined up, not far off, like this whole 2-year wait thing between the Rise of Skywalker and these shows, that I know there's probably nothing that they could have done with it, and the world changed and their theatrical strategy changed and all that, but I hope we never have that again, because that's bad.
No, it is bad completely. And after Kenobi, we're gonna get Andor, and after Andor, we're gonna get Mando. So we're doing pretty well. It's good that we don't have that long wait, but we do have a long wait in terms of movies. So 2019 was when the last movie came out. I think we're gonna get like a 5-year break.
Yeah, from theatricals.
Break. Yeah, we'll never. Yeah. So that's a bit of a bummer, but as long as we're getting new content on Disney Plus, I'm not complaining.
One thing that makes me think this may be a High Republic film, like if we just have to like bet on what anyone said aside, is there is something to be said for reusing resources. Like, for instance, they shipped over all the Stormtrooper stuff from Solo: A Star Wars Story and a bunch of the Rogue One stuff over from England to El Segundo to be used in the Mandalorian shows, stuff like that. Like there's kind of like, I don't know what those savings truly are, but when you're doing a High Republic series, that's the Leslie Headland series of Acolyte, and then this one, which maybe tells of the Jedi, when you put those two things together, there does become a little bit of the potential for resource sharing there in terms of background kind of costumes, things that are unique to the era, sets and locations that can be used in both. Like, you open yourself up to those potential savings. And I'm not trying to look at I tend to look at things like from what George would have done, because that's just how, and I don't know if Disney is as thrifty as George was, necessarily, but nonetheless, I think there is an advantage to having things set in the same era. I mean, it's just kind of hard to deny that.
My one hope for the High Republic shows is that it's visually very, very different from what we got in the prequels, what we got in the sequels. I want to see completely different landscapes, completely different costumes. I just want something completely different, because it is set 500, 400, 300 years before the prequels and whatnot. So I do want to see something visually different. But
because when it comes to Star Wars aesthetic, like when we first saw the High Republic stuff, they're all wearing white, like they're choir boys and girls. That's the difference. Like, things weren't really like, when you got down to it, it was very like superficial. And so I'm guessing that like whatever, like the equivalent of like Republic guards and whatever the bad guy costumes that the pirates and stuff that like go through that will be shared by both sides. That's where I see like that kind of stuff happening, and obviously the ability to build locations. But it does kind of have a weird vibe for the High Republic, that they are almost going very adult and very young with it. Like, they're like, here's your Leslie Headland headed political intrigue series that may or may not be about a Darth Plagueis type figure and his acolyte. And then over here we got the Star Wars Ghostbuster kids. And it's like, I'm like, well, is the bullseye here and you're hitting here and here on this era to establish it? Or are they just trying to cast a wide net and hope that Venn diagram gets the bullseye by hitting both sides of it? I'm curious to see what we think in 2 years when both of these shows are out. Like, was this a good idea?
there doesn't seem to be an in between, because you get like those adult, novels from Claudia Gray and whatnot. Then you get the really kiddie stuff, the preteen stuff. There's no middle ground from my understanding. But then again, I'm not a High Republic expert, so I can't really tell you what's happening. But from what I do know, it seems to be there and there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because we have the video
looking
game coming from Quantic Dream, the controversial Quantic Dream game, and that one appears to be maybe like the middle ground, but the middle ground is being found in a video game and through a game that's probably going to be boycotted or something on the internet. At the end of the day,
that's meant to be coming out in like 2025. So who knows what's going on in 3 years time. So that's
who knows if that studio will even be around, or it'll probably be sold by then. This is the rumor. I don't remember I'm not big in the video game side of things. That's more of like the Bespin Bulletin stuff. But that was one of the rumors that Quantic Dream was going to be sold. Excuse me.
Yeah, I heard that too. But then we also got Taika Waititi's movie that we haven't heard anything about. 2 years that we haven't heard. We got that old school Ben-Hur logo, and then it's just been radio silence since then. So interesting to see what that is from the logo that I noticed. It did have like an Iron Age, like a prehistoric.
It had that Ben-Hur logo. I think that's
look to it.
Yeah, I think that's telling it. I think it's definitely implying a gladiatorial Star Wars film, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, that's the implication. I mean, there's the larger Ben-Hur story, but for the record, I don't know anything about what's going on with that one. There was a time when I started to wonder if the writer was gone, and then it was confirmed that the writer was still with them. I can't remember her name right now, but she's a really good writer. And but whenever I've talked to people in the industry about it, they look at like what Taika has lined up, and they're like, I don't see how the Star Wars movie ever happens. I don't see when this happens. And I'm just like, it's gonna happen. I know it's gonna happen. And they're like, I don't know, Jason. I'm like, I think it's gonna happen. But that's based off of nothing. I think that their analysis is better than mine. I just want it to happen.
100%, but it'll be interesting to see if we get any news or announcements regarding that at Celebration. Because if we don't, then it could be a bit. It could be not so good in terms of it actually coming out or it actually happening. So I'm hoping for a few announcements at Celebration this year. So that will be a very telling time.
Yeah. Celebration and Celebration's coming like right as Kenobi is hitting. So there will be a little bit of tease for Kenobi, but that like the fervor, the afterglow of that celebration will be completely extinguished if it's just Kenobi centric by in 6 weeks. You know what I mean? From about 6 weeks from that celebration. And I personally don't even believe that they should be having it right now. I think they should have just pushed it to next year, just because we will be post-pandemic by then. I mean, in my opinion, most people won't die, Hugo, but someone may die because of Star Wars Celebration. And that just seems a bit, at this point, after all of this patience and waiting, can you imagine living through the whole fucking pandemic, and then all of a sudden you went to Celebration and you died? It's stupid. This is not worth it. I would just rather they do it online, and then next year when we're crazy and everybody's back, do it then. That's what I say. But it's complicated.
San Diego Comic-Con's not happening this year, is it?
I don't believe so.
Comic-Con's not happening this year.
As far as I know, it's not. But
you could have pushed it back another year. What the heck?
So I want to go back to what the tweet said and what you mentioned a little bit about Luke. KG says chances it involves sequel characters, and so far there's been nothing about that. But when Chris brought up Luke, it did strike me that Return of the Jedi means Luke Skywalker. He means Rey by the end of that film. But Tales of the Jedi, I mean, if it was a Luke Skywalker story, that would be on brand. Even though we've already heard the title used for antiquated comics and stuff, it would still definitely apply to Luke, because he has been, quote, the Jedi in all of these materials for the last 40 years.
100%. You froze there for about 20
shit.
seconds, so I couldn't hear you or see you, but you're back now. So
Okay. Well, anyways,
good.
what I was saying was that Luke has been the Jedi. So Tales of the Jedi could be a Luke title. That could completely happen. I mean, I don't think that would be off the table. At the same time,
do you think they're waiting for? Do you think they're waiting for? We don't really get any announcements on May the 4th, but do you think they're waiting for Celebration to announce these shows? Officially announce them, press release, all that.
Yeah. That they,
you do?
Yeah. That's why when everyone was acting like Disney Plus Day was going to be this big day, I hit up my sources. My sources like we don't know anything. We're not hearing that there's anything like that. And I kept quiet. Everyone was saying all this shit. And I just thought, well, you know what? Maybe I'm out of the loop. Maybe it's me. But I'm like, but I'm also like thinking about it there. And I'm like, I don't know why they would lean into Disney Plus Day when they have a Star Wars Celebration that ends up being Disney Plus Day Part 2 for them. That was my thinking. But I still got up in the morning thinking, I don't know everything. I could be wrong. Disney Plus Day comes and everybody's like, man, they all changed their mind. They were gonna do it, and then they changed their mind. And it's like, no, they never fucking changed their mind. That was never never the case. Star Wars Celebration has always been where this stuff, and that's why Tales of the Jedi, while it's basically an open secret at this point, that's why it hasn't been announced. They're just saving it for Celebration. That's my thought. Now, watch tomorrow. They'll just announce it on StarWars.com. But it would not surprise me if we don't hear shit about official casting, shit about the show until they're like, and come to the virus-filled panel where you get to learn about the next Disney Plus Star Wars show, and they meet the cast, and then there's you go there. Then you get COVID and die.
Fuck that. But I do think regarding Disney Plus Day, I do that the reel got leaked the day before. So if that didn't get leaked, I think that would have been a bit cooler seeing the Kenobi reel. But still, like if you remember, they got leaked the day before Disney Plus.
Yeah, and if I remember how that happened, didn't a Disney YouTube channel accidentally make that public, and then people grabbed it real quick, and then they put it down, and then they started striking YouTube channels for showing it. Then they're like, shit, we can't put it on YouTube now, so they made it only on Disney Plus, which was just so stupid. It's like making your promotional materials exclusive content is brain dead. The idea is to get people to want to subscribe to your fucking service. They treat trailers as if they're a commodity. No, trailers are literally is paying us to buy your shit. Like it's giving us entertainment to buy your shit. I will never understand the studio mindset on that shit. I know in their heads it makes sense, but to the consumer, they come off idiotic. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes off as really
petty. It's really petty.
So, KG says I could get behind a Stranger Things vibe. Yeah, see, the thing is I think we could probably assume from the studio perspective, anyways, that Ghostbusters Afterlife came out the way it did because of Stranger Things. So I'm in no way denying the Stranger Things influence, but I do feel like that the model of Stranger Things was put into Ghostbusters Afterlife, and you do have, and then it was reworked a little bit, and then you do have the paranormal shared aspect to it. But when it gets over to Star Wars, what happens to the paranormal? The paranormal kind of goes out the window to some extent, but usually. Maybe this is going to be the haunted house version of Star Wars with kids, for all I know. We don't. But usually the paranormal is then given over to the Force and the good side and the dark side. And then that's where you have the scary and the miracle and mystical. And so, in my opinion, I feel like Ghostbusters Afterlife is going to be the better comparison at the end of the day. That's just that's my Vegas bet. It doesn't mean anything. It's just my opinion,
Well, yeah, definitely. I know you love Ghostbusters, but I think it has huge potential, don't you think? Like, 4 young Jedi Padawans just roaming around doing their crazy shit. I think it could be a great show, personally. But It just all depends on the writing and we thought Boba Fett had great potential. We all know how that turned out. So
Yeah.
it all depends. But I'm pumped for it, Jace.
Well, it's like, remember, I think the model also to always remember here is the Clone Wars. Did you watch the Clone Wars? Were you a Clone Wars guy? No. Okay. So Clone Wars was an anthology series, and you would every 3 episodes was pretty much a mini movie, and you would get into an arc, and you would be like, I don't want this. Why are they going to give me this? And by the end of it, I was completely sold. I'm like, wow, I didn't know I wanted this, and then they've now shown me, and that series dealt with genre and what can we make Star Wars up with? You know what I mean? How do we, how do we make Ahsoka Arnold Schwarzenegger and Predator? And they fucking did it, and it was really good. So where I'm going with that is that it just goes to show that just because something seems like it's a sure bet because it's like what we think we want as fans. That's where I agree with the Rian Johnson method. Even if you don't like The Last Jedi, even if you completely disagree with every component of The Last Jedi, I still think his methodology was correct. I like the movie, for the record, but yeah, I liked it a lot. But it's definitely, I'm with you. it's definitely like when you give fans what they want, you're probably being lazy. You're just feeding them exactly what they want, and it's like as a parent. I have one kid who's a very picky eater, will not eat anything but French fries.
Nice.
If it's not French fries,
reminds me of me.
Yeah. Very picky kid. And then my daughter, exact opposite. And but I remember one night when I was married, I was like, my ex was very picky too, just like my son. I was like over it. I'm like, I need to have a sushi dinner. And I was like, Penny, you want to go have sushi? She's like, ew, no. I'm like, well, I'm going. And she's like, well, I want to go. I'm like, okay, let's go. So we go out. She looks at it. She doesn't think she's gonna like it. Then she tastes it and she loves it.
Loved it.
Now every single time I go have sushi, every time I go on a date and she finds out I had sushi, I'm in trouble. Like she's mad. But point being is that we are like kids. Our tastes are very established from childhood by Star Wars. And at the end of the day, you gotta put some new flavor in there and see what happens, because it may grow your experience, And but Boba Fett wasn't trying to, and that's where I don't fault the show. The more I look back on it, I'm just like, they were just trying to make a really, really dumb, hey, let's just have some fun. You know what I mean? Kind of shit. So, and I don't blame them. And we might like Boba Fett more for that in the future. I may retrospectively be like, you know what? That was the time when it was just about having fun. Who knows though? Hey, it's Johnny. Chris, you've been reported to the Queen for sending me Vegemite. You guys. James Washington, I've noticed that the too much Star Wars isn't a thing anymore. When they had the Star Wars story movies, people were complaining. Shows, TV is the best way to do it. Like one aspect of it, like for me, obviously I never believed in too much Star Wars. But I was the guy who everyone would look to, like, Jason, when are you getting tickets? Jason, when do I PayPal you my ticket money? Because I'm going with you in the gang. And then so at the end of the day, doing that every year, I got pretty sick of it, to be honest with you. I loved seeing Star Wars with my friends. I would do it every year. But that's where I could kind of see generally people going like, oh, getting everybody together and making it this thing. People that we only do this like every year is a bit much. And I kind of think that's where people were coming from. And this other way of doing it on Disney Plus, I think kind of takes that away. And it's just like, oh, okay, if I want to get together all together and watch it together, you can. Nobody has to go out and buy tickets. There's no hassle because the ticket situation was always a fucking headache. Ticket, Fandango's crashing like every time. So I understood where some people were coming from on that. like over time. But yeah, so if we get a movie every other year or something like that, and we continually have these movies that aren't necessarily, or these stories that aren't necessarily like the biggest box office capitalizations, that's the way to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah, what do you think? In your mind, do you think we're gonna get Rogue Squadron?
No,
You don't think
that's
it's going
done.
to happen?
That's done. She's working on Wonder Woman 3.
Yeah.
That's in the can, man. That's not happening, man. That's not happening. But I do have to say that I do miss the big Star Wars experience.
Mhm.
I personally miss it. I miss going to the movies. I miss nothing beats it for me seeing Lucasfilm on the big screen, smashing the popcorn.
Yeah.
So hopefully that happens soon. But we're doing pretty well with the Disney Plus stuff, and it's it's not ending anytime soon, which is good. But regarding the Mando, Jason, I want your opinion on this. Do you think season 3 will be the last season of the Mando?
I'm gonna go with I think it originally was going to be I think that was the original like charter plan. But
Yep.
in my opinion, I don't think so. I think
Too much money to be made with
well,
Grogu.
yeah, but I also think that Mando and Grogu end up being the people who can walk through everything from that era of Star Wars and connect it as they go
Yeah.
forward. And so that way, like it's like if it was, you have these like tree branches, and I think that Mando's the trunk because it's robust. It's they could probably make 10 seasons of The Mandalorian not doing anything new. I don't want them to do this, but they could probably do that, and people would just be like, yeah, this is our Star Wars version of Supernatural. Give us 200 episodes. Like I could see that, but I could also see using that kind of idea to keep telling these stories and to have it branch out. Because like right now we got Mando's branched out into Boba. Now it's branched out into Ahsoka, and we're just kind of getting started on that. So I think they will probably always make Mando stories, and also people probably won't like this idea, but if Pedro Pascal should walk away and never want to do it again, then you keep that helmet on him, and his voice, a voice actor could imitate that. People don't even know when it's the voice actor doing his voice in the show because it's not always him. There's a person who does his dubs sometimes when they don't have him. And so my point is that it like that kind of makes him a valuable character, like Chewbacca.
Yeah.
I mean, Peter Mayhew, that guy defines like everything about the Chewbacca performance. And if Peter Mayhew was immortal, I'd say let Peter Mayhew be Chewbacca forever. I don't want anybody else to be Chewbacca except for Peter Mayhew. But obviously, he passed on. He got older. Johannes came in, did a good job. It's like, okay, we got a new Chewbacca. It's fine.
Yeah.
But that's different than an actor who everything's relied on their face. But this idea that they used to use for Mando, by the time we're 80, there might be 15 people who've played him if they wanted that to be the case.
It's like a James Bond, 100%.
But it's a mask, so it won't even be as big of an issue as recasting Mark Hamill. But of course, now we're moving into like digital actors and stuff like that. So we're probably gonna have Mark Hamill for the rest of our lives too, by the looks of things.
I think Rob mentioned it in another show. I can't remember, but I do watch the show every day. So I think Rob mentioned it. Something that Marvel do is have a different writer, different director every season. I wouldn't mind someone else coming in, writing and directing. Season 4 if it happens, or season 5 of Mando, just a different voice, different taste. But I do want to see Mando keep going. But I like that idea. What Rob said, spot on. That you do need different branches of the tree trunk that you mentioned. So you can't have Filoni and Favreau writing every episode for 5-6 seasons. I do think there should be different writers and different directors.
Yeah. I think that's where the different directors who've come aboard over the years, I think that's been sort of the process for keeping it familiar and also furthering it at the same time. by bringing in new voices. Like who was it? I think Steph Green, who did that second or third episode of Book of Boba Fett. Like I thought that was probably
and he's gone.
really see on my side of things. You're locking up. I'm not sure who's.
I can't see you. Oh, there you are. You're back now.
Yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah. You're back. Yeah, it's weird. On my side of things, I see you locking up, and I don't know. I'm not sure who it is.
And then I see you locking up.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going on.
Night.
But yeah, that fatigue thing is in the past. Yeah, but we're past the fatigue because we haven't had a movie since 2019. So that's
coming up 3 years then.
Yeah. And then James says, "Hey Dill, that's the word. I was thinking of Star Wars fatigue. They have proved that it's not a thing now." Well, was it a thing and now it's not because time has gone by? I that's the big question. But I also have to say that like investment in what happens next is very important for Star Wars. And that's where something like Han Solo, Kenobi, and Boba Fett all fall short for me. Because what happens next with those characters isn't something that we're necessarily always asking. We kind of know what happened that was important. Now Boba's moved past it a little bit, but and I do want to see that stuff, but I don't know if theatrical audiences are like, what's going to happen next to Obi-Wan Kenobi? I don't. So I think Obi-Wan Kenobi becoming a Disney Plus series in the end was really a very good thing.
Jason, let me ask you something about Kenobi.
Oh, you're locking up. I guess I can't answer it.
If you think it's a success, which we all think it's going to be a massive success, is there a way? Do you think there could be a second season, or do you think it's one?
I think it's supposed to be one and done. So I think if it becomes my guess is if people are like, we want more Ewan McGregor, we want more Kenobi. My guess is that if they do a Clone War story with Kenobi in it, and then that way, that way they could use Obi-Wan Kenobi at his height. Because after you watch the Kenobi series, I think you're going to have enough of, I'm sneaking around during the equivalent of the Jedi Holocaust kind of thing. Like you're going to have enough of that. You're going to want to see like remember in Star Wars Rebels, it was like they would be like, here's 10 minutes of, I'm a Jedi, I can't take my lightsaber out. Okay, I had enough. You know what I mean? And by the 10 minutes into the episode, that's how they would do it. Because you do get kind of tired of that oppression, of that feeling of I'm hiding. So I think after 6 episodes of essentially something in that vein, I think if we want more Kenobi, the way to do it is going to be to go to Clone Wars. At the same time, I would not be mad if there was a moment where I saw Ghost Ewan McGregor training Luke Skywalker how to fight Clone War style lightsaber fighting. If they ever went that way, I would not be mad.
Yeah,
it's total fan service. But I want it.
But 100%. But for me, I've noticed that there's a lot more hype for Kenobi than there was for Boba. It's people really hype for the show.
Yeah. Obi-Wan is a much more palatable character than Boba Fett.
Well-rounded.
Because Boba Fett, he's like, the armor is the big draw, but then Mando robbed Boba Fett of his sex appeal, if you will. But the fact that his costume, we have a better version of his costume, I think, with Mando, actually. I think it's an up-designed version of it.
It's cool, but now we're going into like the 4th season. Usually, the costume changes a bit for new toys and merchandising.
Yeah,
but I think it's going to get a change for season 3. Maybe add a gold plate somewhere because they need those new toys.
Well, I'm
there's only so much.
I might have my lore mixed up. I may be misremembering things. But I do seem to remember there being like the helmet that was like the helmet of Mandalore, of like the main guy of that or the main person. And so I would not be surprised if moving forward we end up with the story where somebody has the helmet and somebody has the dark saber, and then we have that contention. It's possible.
So you think that Mando might wear the Mandalorian helmet?
I think
in
that would
season 3?
that would be a way of refreshing the character, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Refresh.
and then
Yeah.
but yeah,
what
but
I'm
also at the same time, like maybe they take that in a different way, because I also believe that Grogu will become Mandalore, and Grogu cannot wear a Pedro Pascal sized helmet. That's just never going to make sense. So they will have to do a story where they melt it down and reforge it into something new. And so that's
his helmet, Pedro's helmet.
yeah. So that's kind of my thinking on how this ends up going. But you know, we'll see. Are you of the opinion that Grogu will become Mandalore? That they're going to go with there being a little green Mandalorian who rules them all? Do you think they will go that ridiculous?
100%.
I love it, but
100%, 100% it's going to happen, and it just doesn't happen in season 3 or in a movie with all of the Mandoverse together.
Yeah.
It's going to happen because there's just too much merchandise to throw away if it doesn't.
Yeah,
happen.
I mean, it may be, that may be the movie opportunity right there. Is Din Djarin has ruled Mandalore for 30 years successfully, and now he's on his deathbed, and he is not being defeated, but he's passing the helmet on to his heir, and he gives it to Grogu, who's now the equivalent of 20 years old, and we have that up-designed Grogu, the death of Din, and
he
speaks now. He's 20 years old, whatever, essentially. And then we have the war for the to be king, and that could be, and then we essentially have a Jedi Mandalorian Yoda, and who doesn't fucking want that? I mean, come on. Jon Favreau has to be like taking a shit. He's like on his phone. He's like open up notes. He's like, Mandalorian movie idea. He's got to have done it. It has to have happened.
100%. 100%. But he has to be taking a shit when he's on his phone.
Oh yeah, because that's like his throne. He's like the throne.
Yeah.
With the Obi-Wan series, will Rupert Friend, I've heard people say it Friend, I don't know if you say it Friend or Friend, but be in the makeup for the Inquisitor? Yes, he's essentially an up-designed version of the cartoon guy. I'm trying to remember what I heard. I think it might have been in a Bespin Bulletin article. Don't hold me wrong, don't hold this against me, but I thought they said that like he did, how he kind of wears like that like makeup that like I'm a goth Inquisitor that he kind of has on the cartoon. I'm not sure if that's in the film or in the TV version. But it also may be that the sources who saw the makeup and mask didn't see it complete or something like that, or that he gets those things later on, because there are years. There's years difference here. They have like this is like 10 years before, and then we have a couple of years until we get to Star Wars Rebels. By the way, on a complete side note, I started watching Star Wars Rebels again yesterday. Watched like the first 9 episodes. Just like I was pretty burnt out with all of the drama and bullshit. And I was like, I just wanted something stupid to put on. I put that on, and having stepped away from it for a couple of years, and now looking at it again, I'm like, Star Wars Rebels is some of the best Star Wars storytelling, but you just have to get past the fact that they added Disney XD animation tropes onto the characters. Like, it bothered me the first time I ever saw it, but now it's just much more clear to me. Like, Ezra Bridger self monologues everything. You know what I mean? Like, he'll like steal something and be like, I'm always getting into trouble. And and they think they're having a bad day. It's like, things that an actor would just probably emote. They have him literally say because they think kids are stupid. And so I still find that super annoying about the series, and a little hard to get past at times, but But once I did yesterday, I started to really enjoy the actual story beats and what they were doing with it. And I'm excited for the Ahsoka series a little bit more at the moment than I was before I started rewatching it, looking at it and going like, what happens when you strip this show of Disney XD, you know? And I'm like, yeah.
Do you think Ezra's been cast? Surely he has. I mean, if filming's starting in a few months, surely we should be getting an announcement soon.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like there's been so many rumors and stuff. Oops, I just lost the chat. And so let me get the chat back. There's been so many rumors and stuff. It's always hard to like say what's going on with that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, James. James gave us the old British pound, I think. And send a robot. Hey, I appreciate it, man.
Thanks,
I always
James.
appreciate the support on the channel. I really do. It means a lot, truly. So thank you. Rebels is some of the best storytelling, which is why Ahsoka series is so exciting. And that's but Mark Hamilton, let me be the gloom and doom of the convo now. We had people involved with Star Wars Rebels that we don't know if they're involved in this iteration of the characters, big people too, who were involved in creating it. And we don't really know what exactly who was giving what elements to it. Like, what was the guy's name who, he did that Robin TV series? He was brought in. Then they kind of got rid of him after a little while, but I heard he had a lot of good ideas. And then we had the guy who did the Josh Trank superhero films. I'm brain farting right now. I apologize. There's Simon Kinberg. Simon Kinberg was also involved, and I don't think he's involved anymore.
Didn't he do all the X-Men films?
Yeah,
I think he did the X-Men.
Yeah, but I also don't really like those. I don't really care about them. Like, not knocking them, just not my thing. So on one hand, I'm not like, oh, without Kinberg, it's a wash. But I do wonder if we could analyze it, which we truly can't as we can only guess. But who really made the great story beats and in Rebels like happen? Was it Filoni, or and he was contending with a bunch of garbage people that were like, honestly, I shouldn't say garbage people, but I mean a bunch of people that were like, oh, what if he has fruit fall on his head? Kids relate to that. Like was he dealing with that shit, or was Filoni like, and what if fruit falls on his head? But we have seen Filoni direct Luke Skywalker and do all this other stuff, so I don't expect it to go that way. But my hope is that Filoni, regardless of what it is, or how it worked in the past for Rebels, is that Filoni is able to look at all the Star Wars Rebels and have gone through that whole creative experience. And then he's like, okay, now I'm going to tell my version with these characters, knowing what they did well, what worked, and taking the contributions of my past peers, and going to make Ahsoka a really great show. Because one of the things about Ahsoka is we don't know if Filoni's the only writer. We don't know if Filoni is the main writer. We don't
know much.
Yeah. We know he's writing it, but it's not uncommon for someone to go and write like the first draft and then for them to kick it over to a writer to punch up and stuff like that, and it could completely go that way. But hey, James says Rebels got better over time and Kinberg was gone by then, so I'd say it was Filoni. Yeah, I think so too. I mean I'm going to be honest. I think Filoni is a really, really good George Lucas surrogate, and I think that we see that in Rebels. The problem is moving past George Lucas eventually, but I always want there to be that George Lucas vibe somewhere in these shows, and if Filoni's the guy to continually give me that over and over again. And then we have, like, let's just, for instance, Leslie Headland is the one who's making something completely outside the box, and it's completely a new take on Star Wars. And then I'm cool with that, because I think we're starting to learn as fans that we're not in 1999 anymore. Back in 1999, when The Phantom Menace came out, I liked it, and a lot of my friends didn't because they were like, I'm only getting 3 more of these things, and that's not the one I wanted. Now I know 1/3 of everything I ever wanted isn't what I wanted. I did not getting what I want forever. And then now, though, we're like, no, you're gonna get something just different in 3 months. just fucking chill. And
yeah, literally 3
yeah.
months. Yeah.
And it makes me less mad at Boba Fett. Like if Boba Fett had been if that had been a long film, I would probably be a lot more pissed off. I'm like, well, there was Boba's chance, and now you fucking blew it. You know, that's how I would have. That's probably would have been my take for the. And I've never left a Star Wars movie mad, for the record. I have had friends who have. I've always been able to see the good side with good contribution to it, or whatever. You know, are you cool to keep going, or do you got a jet? Yeah,
me.
Yeah. Are you cool to?
Yeah, I'm cool. Of course. Yeah. No.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just looking at the score.
Oh no, not that.
Jason,
when we talked, you're all, I have an hour, and I was like, it's been an hour.
Oh yeah. No, it's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all good. No. Yesterday's show, you said I have to ask you this. Feel free. You don't have to answer anything. You're not under oath. You're not. I'm just curious because I'm a lover of Star Wars. You said. The fifth brother was really cool.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about it?
The only thing that I could tell you with any certainty,
whatever you can,
it's just to look towards the concept art from The Force Awakens that they used, that they revealed was influencing the one from Star Wars. Same goofy hat and all that stuff, you know, and he just has that kind of like a snake reptilian-esque like quality to him. That's pretty much the only thing I could like say for certain. And and
but look, because if you say it's cool, then you know I'm gonna.
I haven't heard is not cool. I haven't heard is not cool. But everything that I have, everything that I am hearing is, and that people are excited for on the production side, is Reva. Is the third sister. She's the one. Like she's the Darth Maul. She's the standout Darth Maul of this crew, and if you will. And so I'm not. So don't. But at the same time, that's just what I'm hearing, and maybe it's not. Maybe he's the main person or whatever. You know, at the end of the day, but it does sound like.
I'm sure they all going to have their moments to shine.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, and I also wouldn't be surprised if just from like maybe like I don't know if this is a structuralist perspective, but what do? You have Grand Inquisitor, Daddy, and then you have brother and sister, and then they kind of are trying to one up each other, and she's the one who clearly, in my opinion, is going to be the one upper who is continually one upping. So he's probably going to be just somewhat adequate. And she's going to be the one who excels, who goes beyond cutting off people's hands and stuff, and really making people on Tatooine go, tell them what they want to know, you know? And so yeah. But I don't want to say the fifth brother's going to suck. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying the fifth brother's going to be a dope. Back when I used to report anything on Force Awakens and The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, I talked about Finn. People would just be like, oh, they're making Finn stupid. And I was like, and the things I was reporting were things that made Finn cool. It was like the things that people actually liked about Finn. And so I'm always afraid of the human brain that sees everything in a binary of Coke or Pepsi, good or bad, black or white. It's like, that's just, the characters don't really necessarily work that way. But he sounds, he does sound like, he's not, for as I know, he's not being berated. He's simply there. They're doing, they're interrogating, they're spying. So I think people may actually end up leaving or walking away from the earlier part of the show, liking him, because he's going to look really ominous. And then you're just going to see him watching people like a fucking lizard, with a soulless, you know what I mean? Like laser focus. And we see what happens when they do that. And that's kind of where I think,
that sounds terrifying. Yeah. That sounds pretty terrifying. I like it.
Yeah, and one of the things that like people haven't really read between the lines on very much is uh Uncle Owen sees them. Uncle Owen knows that these people are there, and I'll dig into that like a little bit more. But imagine being Uncle Owen and seeing the fifth brother looking for your child, and you just want to go to the market, man. You're just trying to sell some of your water and pick up some fruit,
Yeah.
get brew some coffee for that machine, and that's your
That'd be
goal.
terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
you're gonna definitely like understand Uncle Owen so much better. Like that's just what I keep hearing, and at the end, I guess the takeaway is on one hand, as a Star Wars fan, I'm like, that's great. Like it makes Uncle Owen a deeper character. Like when we watch A New Hope, it actually it deepens it. It makes it a bit richer.
Makes sense. Yeah.
On the other hand, when I step away from the Star Wars lens a little bit, I'm like, do we give a shit though? Do we need Uncle Owen enriched? I don't know. As a Star Wars fan, I'm probably happy, but do general audiences, because that's the thing about every Star Wars show, is I will sit down and watch it and I will have one experience, my kids will have another, and my parents will have another, because we're all looking at these shows from completely different experience, vantage points, and interests and stuff like that, And so that's what I'm curious about Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan Kenobi, the series, because it does enrich A New Hope. If you're a prequel guy like I am, it's what you want. So on the one hand, yeah. On the other hand, your average person who went and saw the prequels was like, I don't know if I needed to know Obi-Wan Kenobi's backstory. I don't know if I care. Yeah, he was a Jedi. I know that. Like that was kind of a common perspective of your average, I just go see a movie on Friday night person when The Phantom Menace came out. And why do I care? I don't know if I care about it. And some of that was George Lucas's failing at the interpersonal level with the characters, for sure. Like I see that.
Yeah.
But
well, what you just said now about seeing the Fifth Jedi and Uncle Owen, it'll be terrifying. Like me watching the show, I'll be like terrified for Luke.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the way you explained it, and he's like looking through the shadows, and that's the shit that I want to see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm pumped for that shit, man.
My impression is that like the first third of the series is paranoia, what it's like for Kenobi, and then the Princess Leia stuff, and then the last half of it is dealing with, now I'm kind of exposed, and here are the ramifications of that exposure, and then returning back to the wilderness, hidden again, and back. My understanding.
Yep. You're cutting out.
Look okay on my side. So I guess we don't live in the future like I thought we did.
You're back now.
I thought we lived in the future.
No, we don't. You're back.
James says,
I missed the last 30 seconds.
Okay. James says, that being said, after rewatching Clone Wars the other day, I think a lot of that doesn't work in live action. Yeah, I would agree that like some of that stuff in live action definitely doesn't translate. I mean, but what did work? Well, what did work was, how like you have that kind of banter between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin, where they're like, oh, and you did this carrying me on your back. Like Clone Wars expounded upon that, and it would get a little bit cringy sometimes, or it would work really, really well. But you did have moments where Anakin was a likable human. They showed they didn't concentrate on Anakin's flaws and why he's going to become Darth Vader every episode. There were times when he was just a cool dude, a cool guy to fight in the Clone Wars with. And so if they were to ever go back, if they were ever to go and hire Hayden and Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor to be Obi-Wan and Anakin again in a Clone Wars story, and where they are a part of it, and they could humanize Anakin and make him our Luke Skywalker again, I think it would be a good thing overall. Like I think it would be, I think it would work out pretty well. And I think that they would be, I think those guys, they're both very good looking dudes with very good skin. And Obi-Wan wears the beard. So I think Obi-Wan could go right back to Revenge of the Sith. I think Obi-Wan could do a pickup for Revenge of the Sith today with the right makeup. You wouldn't even know the fucking difference. And Hayden has gotten a little bit older,
100%.
but I still think that he would be very easy to get back. I don't think he's aged much at all. And I do think though that clock is ticking if they ever want to do that. So
grow the hair out
yeah,
a bit.
yeah. I mean, and I think that was even a wig in Revenge of the Sith, wasn't it? Wasn't it a wig?
Oh, was it?
I think it was. I think he had like longer hair and it was like a wig.
No.
And then, but anyways, yeah. But also you give him that Clone Wars haircut, which is like the Luke Skywalker haircut, basically. You give him that, and then it kind of hides that there's some difference, you know. Oh, it's the hair, and you end up, I think with the potential to once again use the characters, make everything, you know, like make everything kind of more palatable about Anakin, make us feel the loss of him more in a better way, what Clone Wars did, but in live action, because Clone Wars, for all of the great things it did, you're never going to get a certain part of the population to watch an animated show. I struggle with certain parts of Star Wars Rebels, and that's because it's animated, not because it's like the stories are bad. But as a Star Wars fan, I'm willing to see past it. Most people aren't. And when you're talking into a fan, when you're talking to fandom, then they go, "Oh, well, that's their loss." Well, yeah, that is their loss, but that's not their reality. That's reality.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, as much as good of the General Krail Clone Wars arc is, I think, one of the best Star Wars stories ever told. And it's never really going to be seen by more than 4 or 5 million people at the end of the day. You know what I mean? The larger Star Wars audience will never see that. So live action Star Wars on television, that's where you do it. That's you know, and they'll never do this because I think everyone's always going to want to put their stamp on Star Wars and tell their story, and so they'll never want to remake something. But if they took the General Krail arc and turned that into a live action film with just Tamara Morrison playing all of the different clones, and they could do all of that in the volume, it would be a great limited series or limited film or whatever. And I'm not saying to do it 1-to-1, but to retell it with the same beats and like the generally like the same story. Don't change that. Make so that way both are canon. Oh, I would be so happy. It would be so easy for them. But they'll never do that because, like I said, they'll always just want to do something new, I think. But James says that I truly didn't love Rebels till season 3, so I agree on it getting better over time. Yeah, with the first 2 seasons of Rebels, there's like a lot of like laying down what everyone is and what the formula is and stuff like that. You know, there's so much story there to love, and there's so much execution to dislike for me. But I'm doing my rewatch now. I think I'll be on to season 2 tonight, and so I'll probably, if I don't get burnt out, I'll probably update you guys on my progress and stuff like that, and see how if I have a different opinion to it. And one of the things about the show is that I used to watch it with someone who was very, very rabid about it, just loved everything about it and could not critically think about it. And I found it a little bit frustrating, if that makes sense. You know, I nothing is a 10. You know what I mean? Like nothing is a 10. There's always something that could be done better. And I'm a critical person, so I do like to look at what it is, but also like I love it when I could identify like that critical flaw in something, but I don't care. Like that's when I know it's working. Like so good when there is a critical flaw, and I just don't care though, because I'm like, that's fine though. I don't care. So you gave me all this for that. Okay, I'll take it. Like that exchange, and I find that kind of interesting, you know, when that happens personally. But all right, what else? James says, It's a lot to ask a writer-director who isn't familiar with Star Wars to step into the world. Even Robert Rodriguez was reluctant to come on board. Yeah. It's one of those. Huh. So Mark says that I'm freezing out here, mouse choking your internet. Yeah, that's weird. I mean, it's the weekend, but sorry guys. So yeah, sorry. It happens, I guess. But yeah, it is true. I also think it's ultimately a strong good thing. I said this when Gary Whitta came aboard to rewrite or to write the first draft of Rogue One. He talked all this shit on George Lucas, clearly just didn't get George Lucas, didn't get the prequels. But my take was, you know what? This is somebody who sees something different in Star Wars than what is, and sees the potential there that they don't see being tapped and utilized. And that's where I think that bringing in people who don't understand all of this stuff, because then when they're like, oh, you can't do this because in Zanzar 7, then they're just like, what? Shut the fuck up, nerd. And that ability to go, shut the fuck up, nerd, is, I think, really valuable to getting a lot of that shut the fuck up, nerd shit off the table that doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see, though. So Red 5, how's it going, bud? What's up, brother? Do you suspect some surprise announcements at Celebration? I do. I think that they're going to announce some of these TV shows, and I wouldn't be surprised if Rogue Squadron has announcements. At the end of the day, here's what I think, or here's my take. I think Patty Jenkins will do it. It's going to be delayed. It's not going to be the 2023 movie. It'll eventually come out. Taika's movie for 2024, whatever it's supposed to be, probably isn't going to happen. It's not ready, so it's fine. Okay, you didn't make 2023, but we don't have a 2024, so now you get that, and then that frees it up. But I also think that Rogue Squadron as a concept, a topic, a potential film is bigger than Patty Jenkins. It existed before Patty Jenkins. So at the end of the day, they could just get somebody else to come in and do it. It's not. I have a hard time believing that Patty Jenkins is the only person in the world willing to do a Rogue Squadron story. It just seems to me like there's a lot of directors out there who would want to dabble in Star Wars, and that's a place where you don't have to deal with a bunch of bullshit lore. You know what I mean? Again, they're fighter pilots. They're just going to be fighting. They're going to be flying. You're making a fighter pilot show, so it doesn't matter that it
it looks so stupid though, how they got that teaser reveal trailer of her talking about how her dad was a pilot and all that bullshit. Like, remember that shit when it was first announced? Like, it just looks dumb. Like,
do you know why that was made? That was made for Celebration. The one that never happened.
Was that for Celebration?
Yep. It was filmed for Celebration. That's where they were gonna show that and to make the announcement. It didn't happen. Yeah. That was still on the table. The Disney, was it the earnings call? I think it might have been, whatever. They're like, well, let's okay. So they had it. They just threw it out there for that. Yeah. So
yeah.
Sorry, no, it's okay. I mean, for all I know, I'm frozen right now. I'm in carbonite for all I know. Mark says if they're doing High Republic, the Drengir could totally fit as a Stranger Things type big bad. In the comics, they're probably more horror than Star Wars has ever been. I can see it working. Yeah, that's. Is that the plant stuff?
Yeah. It's
plant stuff. I really dislike plant stuff. Like as a kid, there was a show I used to watch called Jace and the Willed Warriors, and I loved everything. It had my name in it. It had like these cool cards with blades on it, but they just fought plants every episode. And as a kid, I was like, I was like, they just fought like vines and shit all the time. And I was just like, I hate this. And then whenever a cartoon would do that trope of like attacking plants, being as flytrap monsters, I was like, I like it in Super Mario, I guess. But yeah, but I mean, maybe Star Wars can do it, you know? See, James says, are we getting links to Jedi Fallen Order for Obi-Wan? Interesting to see Cal regarding Inquisitors. Not that I know of at this point. That doesn't mean it's not happening, but to the best of my knowledge, I don't think that is a thing. But with BD showing up in The Mandalorian, I mean, I guess it would be very in that actor. It's the actor that could probably just be like, "Hey, well, I want to be on a Star Wars show." He'd be like, "Okay." They probably would just do it. But
yeah,
and then
yeah, 100%.
Mr. Hamilton says, "I hated the idea of it, but the comics are pretty good enemies. But in the comics, they're pretty good enemies. They do lots of possession, or they're more like hive mind creatures than plants, really. So you kind of get the opportunity to kind of do like a body snatchers kind of story. I used to love this War of the Worlds sequel series that came out as a kid. It does not hold up. I do not recommend anybody go search it out. But what they took the War of the Worlds concept and then mashed it up with Invasion of the Body Snatchers, so that all of the aliens from the War of the Worlds who died at the end were put into these barrels. And it was like Return of the Living Dead. The barrels were starting to break down after 50 years or something. And so the monsters would climb into people and possess them, and would be like, but as a kid, it was super scary. Also, there was I was like, yeah, this is badass. So yeah, I could see that being like kind of fun. But I've also like never liked the idea of things that go up against the Force and block it, like the Force kryptonite, like the Yel Samiri and concepts like that. All of that jazz usually kind of bums me out. At the end of the day, I'm just like, you know what? But at the end of the day, Yoda would say the Force could beat this, and then it doesn't, and I'm just like, eh. So yeah, it's always a bit mixed for me on that side of things. But yeah, well, I'm gonna say we've probably done this impromptu show. I apologize for all of the freezing up and that kind of stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's just Saturday internet out here. I don't know. I have pretty good internet though, usually, and that's so I don't know if it's Melon or if it's me.
It's just Melon. Melon.
Yeah,
Melon sucks.
Melon is being pretty shitty. So and that's a good time to tell everyone, if you support the show as a Patreon supporter or as a channel member, when we get enough for the show, I will be able to get a better service and up the quality. And that's kind of my dream right now. My dream is to make this show self-sufficient and better quality. That's what I want to do going forward. So, if people like it enough I'll keep doing it, and that's what will happen. But I want to thank everyone for hanging out with us today and following along, reading my stories on MakingStarWars.net, citing me adequately for my hard work and stuff like that. And I completely appreciate it. And we will see you guys on Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And Chris, you're always welcome to join us whenever you're free. I know you're on a completely other side of the world in a different time zone, but I do appreciate when you're able to make it. It's always nice talking Star Wars with you, dude.
My pleasure, dude. Anytime.
Bye, everybody.
It's not about spaceships.